Good evening, guys. In the Full Wheel Boogie shop today, we're in the Full Wheel Boogie driveway working on the Honda Pioneer 1005. Doing an alignment here. Went riding with the Weld 1, and when I loaded it up on the trailer, before we left even, I could tell our alignment was off. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Make a little adjustment here. I actually already did the passenger side. I think I've got it close, so we may have to dial it in some more, but I'm not the one to like perfectly measure everything. What was going on was my driver's side tire was nice and straight, which it's not right now. You can see it is, I did measure it. It's probably about a ½ inch out from where it needs to be. But when it was straight, and I pulled on the trailer and I went to put the wheel straps on, the drinker side here was pointed in pretty good. So it's hard to tell on camera, but we've got a little bit of toe in, which is what we want. About a ½ inch is what you want from toed in. So that means the front of the tire is closer, about a ½ inch closer than the rear of the tire. And what I do, it's not parked in the perfect spot right now, but I'll try to measure off the wheel typically. Sometimes I'll measure off the tire, but rubber moves a little bit, and it's really hard to dial it in. First step, make sure your steering wheel is nice and straight. So get in there. It's where it needs to be. I don't have one of those level things that bolts on the wheel, so we just kind of do it by feel. This machine is not stock, so I have to take the steering rod or the tie rod ends out of the knuckle or the steering rack to adjust it. On a stock machine, you'd have a sleeve basically right here. I'll back up, and that sleeve you could come in here, that's my tie rod, and turn it, and you can shorten it and lengthen that shaft. This is an aftermarket kit. It's an aftermarket long arm kit by Texas Tough Customs, and it is bad to the bone. It really is. It improved the ride in this machine like tenfold. It is 10 inches wider than stock, so 5 inches on each side. It is 8 inches more wheelbase than stock. Got on wide angle, so it looks a little funny, but you can see there. Pushes the front tire up about 5 inches, and it pushes the rear back about 3 inches. And then it also lifted it approximately probably like 5 inches. I didn't really get a good measure on it before I did it. This kit's been on there about a year. But nice beefy stuff. I mean, you can see here, I'll go wide angle again. Big control arms, upper and lower. Rhino 2.0 axles all the way around. Those are nice because they have a good warranty on them. Heim joints on the top here, adjustable top control arms, just welded tabs on the lower. A lot of adjustability. Probably don't have this thing quite as dialed in as it should be. That the camber on the rear could probably come in just a hair, but this stuff's real beefy. It is, like I said, the ride of this thing is so much better. Still got kind of little tires on it, as you can see. I need to get a set of bigger tires. These are 28s. These are Honda Talon wheels, factory Honda Talon wheels. I'd put these tires on it before I lifted it, and going to put a set of 31s on it just to get a little beefier tire. Gonna put a Maxxis Carnivore. 31s come stock on a KRX 1000, so you can get them pretty cheap. They're a light tire. They're a good tire. I want to keep this thing as light as I can. May get a set of wheels, may not. In the comments, maybe let me know what you think. You know, it's a 6-inch wide wheel in the front and an 8-inch in the back. So I don't know if I put, you know, it'll be the same size tire front and rear. Right now the front is a skinny tire and the rear is kind of a fatter tire. It's an 11-inch wide tire. So I'll go from an 11-inch wide in the back to a 10. So a little bit thinner. And then I'll also put a 10-inch tire in the front. So no, it's a 9-inch tire. So I get inch wider in the front, inch narrower in the back. And might throw a set of wheels on just because some better back spacing, because I really don't love how those are. They rubbed a little bit, so the front do have a spacer on them. There's an 1.5 inch spacer on the front. Not on the back, just the front. But I'm gonna do a little bit of work here, so I'll just tell you what I'm gonna do. So see, there's a jam nut right there. Loosen that up. That's at the wheel, at the hub. There's a jam nut there at the steering box. These are automotive tie rod ends, which is really nice. They're pretty beefy. Also tie rod ends, like 3/4 ton truck tie rods for acting as ball joints, basically. Really nice with this kit, because if you do break one, I haven't broken one of those yet. I have broke a tie rod end at the wheel. It was driver error. Came down really hard off like a 3-foot ledge. Had the wheels turned, shouldn't have, and I broke it. That was up Trail 9 on Brown Mountain. This thing absolutely dominated that trail until the low talent light came on the driver's side of the dash. We ended up getting out of the woods. A man in a razor saved me. He had a spare part. I did not have a spare part when I did it, so just facepalm there, guys. I always carry spares, especially tie rods if you're out here wheeling these things hard. That is a like extreme difficult trail, and we weren't prepared. Shouldn't have been on it that day. First day out with the new suspension, new lift. I wasn't quite confident with my tire placement. But we did have friends with us. Old boy at Weld One, sorry. Logan, you should have been there. But Winch Outdoors was there. Chris was there, so he helped us get off the trail. And if we hadn't got a part, we would have had to ride back to the truck and to the parts store, to the house, and then I'd have been out there all night. But didn't happen. So anyway, I'm going to get adjusting on this thing. Again, going to loosen those jam nuts, pop that thing out of the knuckle, and shorten it up, basically. So since your tie rod's in the back, if you shorten it, it's going to pull that tire out. I'm going to lengthen it. Excuse me. I'm going to lengthen it, all right? Because we want to pull that tire in and adjust that toe in on the driver's side. And I could have probably turned the wheel a little bit and just kept adjusting my passenger side out to accommodate, but I didn't want to do that, because if you do that, your steering wheel is not going to be even, and you're not going to be in the center of that steering box. So you'll be able to turn harder one way than the other, and we do not want that. So gonna dial it in. I'll get back to you in a minute. We are probably gonna take it for a ride. It steers like kind of terrible right now, since the passenger side was towed in. It wanted to turn basically driver's side as you were rolling down the road. Also, when you took a tight turn, it would almost jerk the steering wheel out of your hand trying to self-correct and self-center. So hopefully that issue will be done, and this thing will ride like a dream. I don't think anything's really moved. I think just after I broke it, I didn't probably take enough time to line this thing up right. So had a moment here tonight, and gonna get it done. So we'll see you in a bit. All right, quick pro tip here. Actually, 2 quick pro tips. When you're knocking out, see that tie rod, leave your nut on the threaded stud. As much thread engagement as you can get,
And that way when you kind of smack that thing with a hammer a little bit, you're hitting the nut, the face of the nut. You're not going to damage the threads, and you're not going to damage the end of the stud, okay? Pro tip number 2, so you can see on that ball joint, it's actually a tie rod, like I said earlier. See that blue mark? So that is, I think they call it tamper proof. It's basically a little gel. And what that does is, as you're out there trail riding, if that nut tries to back off, or if it backs off, you can do a quick check over your rig. I do all my jam nuts like this. So I can grab a flashlight if I need to, but most of the time I can just walk by and take a look. And if that gel isn't lined up, that means that nut's loosened up. And sometimes these nuts will loosen up and you can't really see it. So that's a good visual indicator that you need to grab a wrench, tighten that up. Typically on this machine, I do put blue Loctite. Been using orange Loctite lately as well. And that's a, not a red, so you don't need heat to loosen it. But it does keep those threads pretty locked in. So good to use that, especially if you're doing a lot of off-roading, which we tend to do in this thing. A lot of vibration, a lot of suspension movement, and you do not want any of your links, your tie rods, your ball joints coming loose, because it'll eat those threads up. It'll let them walk back and forth, and then you'll either damage your thread inside your link, or you'll damage your thread on your joint itself, and then you'll have a, more likely to have a premature failure there. Also, got this nice light. As you can see, it's pretty bright. Magnet swivels around. This is a snap-on light. They call it an active cooling light. It's a high lumen ECSPE 102. Really great light. It's got a heat sink in it, a really large brass chunk that's a heat sink. So just a lot of lumens out of a small light. Got a hook on it too. So really nice product there. Hit up your local Snap-on distributor if you'd like to buy one for yourself. All right, made a few adjustments here. So we're pretty much dialed in as close as I can get it in the driveway. So what I did, see, we got a good flat spot on this tire. So outside that center tread, over here to the outside flat spot, center tread, we had 67 1/4. Did the same thing on the back of the tire. Try to hit the center of the tire, and it was 67 3/8. So I'm gonna call that close enough for now. So we're gonna tighten everything up. The other thing that I like to check, because the more thread engagement we have, I think that the stronger it's gonna be. I'm not a scientist, but so if I measure from the boot right there on the gearbox to the beginning of the tube on my tie rod, it's 1 1/4. I've got it at 1 1/4 on the other side, and then again I measure from the end of the thread to the start of the tube there, and it's about 7/8 of an inch. The other one is 1 inch, so within 1/8. Good enough for the girls that I date. So gonna tighten everything up here, and we'll take her for a quick spin around the neighborhood. Not street legal, do not recommend this, but live out here in the country, so it don't matter. All right, quick break here to show you the tools I use for this. Again, this is not factory. This is a Texas Tough Customs. I think the advertised is a 6-inch lift, okay? Foam mat, that one's a Matco brand, saves your knees. Snap-on light, Stanley power lock, can't beat it. Couple adjustable wrenches. I don't love using adjustable wrenches, but I couldn't find my stubby jumbo wrenches, so these kind of just had to make it work. They're packed away in a Land Cruiser or Jeep somewhere. Those are for the jam nuts on the tie rod. Snappy ratchet, best ever made, 19 millimeter. We have a Sonic socket right there. This is a Mako high power 1/2 inch 16 volt impact wrench, just stubby so it can fit in there. It's a beast. The 19 millimeters are for the lock nut holding the tie rod onto the knuckle. So that's about all you need. On a test ride here, we're just going to bomb up the road a little bit. One thing I will say, once you get back from driving it, check your jam nuts again on your tie rod. These tie rods are bent twice, and the bend coming off the steering box should be basically straight off the steering box and come straight down before it bends forward. There's actually a 3 bend, so it's a compound bend. It's hard to get them exactly where you need them, just setting them with it on flat ground. Once you drive it, they'll find their home. They'll find where they want to be. So make sure you do that, but we should be good to go. Just rode down the driveway. The wheel is nice and centered. Coming straight down felt a lot better. So we're gonna go for a little rip, and I'm not gonna be able to talk. You probably won't hear me, but here we go. Nice cruising speed there. We're in high gear, 30 miles an hour, 6 gear. It is pulling just a hair to the right, so I think my driver's side is a little off. Probably do this again, just maybe dial it in, maybe just leave it here. It's driving real nice. All right, we're back from the ride in the garage. Excuse my mess. I got tires everywhere. I got tools, boxes everywhere. Got a big Jeep back there. Anyway, she rode great. Had to cut the video out on the ride because I tell you I live out in the country, but I actually live half a mile from a police station. So that car you saw flashing headlights at me was a sheriff. And I think he was just flashing because I had my camera running, and the light from the camera probably was in his eyes, maybe, we're hoping. He didn't follow me, got back to the house pretty quick. Really shouldn't be driving that thing on the road. Really shouldn't be driving it at night. But anyway, we made it back. Hopefully it was dark enough he couldn't really see me that well, and he won't pull me over in the future. So we're back, safe and sound. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps somebody. Give me a like, give me a comment, anything you think should have done differently. Any thoughts on the tires, and we'll see you next time.